All right, this letter came in from Mike Parsons today. It is the attachment to the original letter to Donald Trump. It's fairly long. If you want to download and read any of these letters yourself, go to yearofjubilee.com. Jubilee is spelled with one E like the King James Bible. Click on List of Other Prisoners. Go to the File section. Look for number 1, Mike Parsons' letter to Donald Trump. And then look for Mike Parsons' attachment letter to Donald Trump. This is what we'll be reading today. Like I said, it's long, and if you want to read it yourself, go to Year of Jubilee and you can download it. Greetings, fellow Americans, patriots, and followers of Christ. The following is an update to the never-ending attack upon my family by the corrupt Tipton County Old Boy Network and their accomplices. Recently, I was informed that the Tilshikotan Indian Nation Court issued an order for my immediate release and a warrant for the arrest of Judge Joe Walker, who falsely ordered my arrest. The Tilshikotan is a sovereign First Nation in what you may consider British Columbia, Canada. However, the Tilshikotan Nation has never signed over the rights to that land nor any treaty with Canada, which, like the United States, are only corporations posing as government. Then their court contacted a fugitive recovery company who said they could effect my release with the court order and transport me to the Tilshikotan Nation. Miss Parsons was contacted by someone claiming to work for the fugitive recovery company, claiming they had all the proper court orders needed to transport me. The representative also said they were looking at working for the Tilshikotan Nation security for their logging operation. Miss Parsons was then advised by the representative that they would need a few $1,000s to cover the cost of transporting me. I lost my place. Oh. Since she had no money, he asked for something he could sell and make the money needed. He then took her 1991 Ford Ranger truck without even asking for the title or requiring a notarized bill of sale. Then the representative called asking where the judge who ordered my arrest was located. Given the fact that was supposed to be his expertise, she thought it was an odd question and stated she had no knowledge of his location. As you can guess, the representative of the Fugitive Recovery Company turned out to be an FBI agent. And as you can guess, via his lies and manipulation, he was working a parallel construction to frame Miss Parsons. Then several weeks later, she was advised that without an indictment, but an information, she was being charged with aiding and abetting to commit conspiracy to kidnap a judge and sheriff. She was told that if she pled guilty, she would go home and feed her animals, that sentencing would not be until December the 12th, that she would not have to turn herself into prison if sentenced until February 2018, and she would also be allowed to go home right then without posting any bond. However, if she pled not guilty, she would immediately be put in federal prison with no bond. She is facing 20 years in prison. Now think about this. If they actually thought she was attempting to kidnap a judge, do you really think they would let her walk out of there, let alone without a bond? Of course not. It's also interesting that none of the media outlets in Memphis, Tennessee mentioned the case. Nothing on TV, radio, or print. Do you think they would ignore this if there was an actual attempt to kidnap a judge? Of course not. There are 2 reasons they dare not touch this story. 1, it reeks of government entrapment, and 2, the fact that the legal process from a sovereign country is superior to the courts of a corporation, which are statutory, and we the people are not subject to them, citing the Montevideo Convention, Article 3, Vienna Convention, Article 29 and 31, and several U.S. Supreme Court rulings. The only mention of this at all was the same fake news propaganda outlet of the Tipton County Old Boy Network called The Leader. The article can be seen at covingtonleader.com. Therein you can see how their local Tipton County publication twisted the legal court order of a sovereign First Nations international court into claiming that a bounty hunter was hired to kidnap a judge and a sheriff and break Mike out of jail. It's also falsely stated that an initial payment of $5,000 was made. You will notice that the author never gives the proper spelling of the Tilshikotan. Apparently they rely upon people's inability to do research and verify the Tilshikotan is a nation of sovereign Native Americans and not a colony of sovereign citizens. Remember, citizens are subjects and subjects are slaves. As the founders adopted these authentic Native American ways, they too became sovereigns without subjects. After the Revolutionary War, colonies are nothing more than clusters of subjects being managed by rulers Then a guy who also lives in Tipton County and works at the same company as Miss Parsons showed the fake news to the owners of the company. After 24 years, she was fired from her job with the same company as an electrical design engineer. Sadly, they didn't even ask her what happened. Now, if Miss Parsons goes to prison, we may lose our home, our land, and all of our animals, which are our family. As it turns out, Mike Donovan, the DA who railroaded me into prison in 2009 after I sued a void-rigged election and sued him for official oppression and malicious prosecution, who railroaded me back into prison for 3 years for failure to appear in court, a charge that was until recently considered contempt of court and would get 10 days in jail and a $50 fine, is the same Mike Donovan who is protecting Ms. Parsons. Unfortunately, President Trump was not aware of Donovan's history of abuse of power or criminal acts, and it was only by referral by an establishment rhino congressman that a tool of the good old boy network and the Clintons could be appointed U.S. attorney, and it was only because I am not there and none of our friends were able to advise Ms. Parsons that she was forced to hire a lawyer who was useless. He never examined any evidence but claimed he could not win. Apparently it's not that he could not win, but they would not let him win. And apparently his oath to the bar and state of Tennessee Supreme Court creates a conflict of interest. As the scripture says, you can only serve one master. No doubt he is serving his. This is why the word attorney is not found in the original Constitution. The original 13th Amendment even forbids those with titles of nobility from holding office. Remember, the attorneys are made esquires and barristers by the Queen of England. Now you can see how a corrupted government can systematically attack and destroy those willing to stand and speak out. They will paint you a sovereign or a lone wolf. The fact is, sovereign means creator and owner, as one who is independent, self-sufficient, and self-governed, like the Native American ways the Republic was modeled after. And the fact is, there has never been a confirmed case where a wild wolf has ever killed a human in America. Unlike many in government, wolves are monogamous, don't overpopulate, and their mainstay is rats and other vermin in the forest. When the coyotes chatter, the wolves all sing together and the threat is gone. Seems like government would rather we be sheep controlled by a sheepdog that they are master over. Seems to me if we live like sovereign and a wolf, we would not be dependent on government, and there would be a lot fewer rats. That seems more like a nature of a real American. So if they call me a sovereign or a wolf, I'll consider it an honor and continue calling the pack. Whereas the forest is full of rats and Miss Parsons needs help. Right now there is a real president who is listening, but it's up to the people to be the voices of Miss Parsons, and I am being held hostage in a private for-profit prison. Please share this information with President Trump or the Steve Bannons, Roger Stones, or Jay Sekulows of the world who can help. Perhaps President Trump can investigate the U.S. Attorney of the western part of Tennessee and dismiss the false charges against Miss Parsons and I, or if he will recognize my appointment as ambassador of the sovereign Tilshakwotan nation, then both Miss Parsons and I would be protected by diplomatic immunity. Then I could continue my ministry helping the Tilshakwotan nation develop their natural resources, allowing the Tilshakwotan nation access to good-paying jobs, revenue from their own resources, and the ability to take back their children from the Canadian government's child kidnapping foster system, where children like Sheila Billy were put on drugs for wanting to learn about Christ and put in a cage for running away, and reports of sexual abuse were ignored by their government that would rather generate millions to balance their book with taxpayer-funded, pedophile-infested child trafficking racket. This is what President Trump would call a win-win-win proposition. I pray that during this time of Thanksgiving, leading up to the celebration of the birth of Christ, you will take a stand and speak out for Miss Parsons and I. Otherwise, this may be the last time I have to communicate with you. May God bless you, my fellow Americans, patriots, and followers of Christ, with the courage to fight, so that one day you can say to your posterity, there was a time when as a real America, I stood for the truth, freedom, and liberty when others remained seated. I spoke out against evil, corruption, and oppression when others remained silent. And like the Tennessee Volunteers at the Alamo, I fought alongside those in a fight against overwhelming odds to protect the innocent, because it was the right thing to do. This was when we awoke the sleeping giant who stood with us as we exposed and overturned the corrupt old boy networks, restored the republic, and returned the power to the people. That's why now we are all real Americans again. For more information, visit MikeParsons.org. And then it gives his bio. Ambassador Mike Parsons, ACJ, USCT, Tilshakwotan Nation, country of Chilchakwotan bio. I have a mechanical degree from Southwest College. I was a special missions pilot and officer in the United States Air Force Civil Air Patrol, a former special duty with the Shelby County, Tennessee Sheriff, a former manager with Federal Express over aircraft and trucking operations in East Tennessee, an adjunct faculty member of the Southwest College, licensed general contractor, licensed building inspector, and a radio talk show host on The Voice of Truth with Mike Parsons. The Voice of Truth is a radio ministry dedicated to exposing corruption in government and restoring our constitutionally recognized God-given rights and teaching my fellow American how to be independent, self-sufficient, and self-governing. As a man of faith, I was saved at 5, baptized at 8, and now as an ordained minister by the Native American Church of Nemenhah, and recognized as a medicine man and traditional leader. My way is focused on practicing and promoting reliance on our Creator's ways of natural health care, living independent, self-governed, and in harmony with all God's creation. I am a farmer, and with my wife of 30 years, Miss Parsons, I raised organic hay, dairy goats, horses, rabbits, chickens, and for 30 years I have raised wolves. I have worked to educate the public and dispel the false myth that wolves are dangerous to man, and have provided wolves to autistic children and families seeking the world's best family companion animal. Miss Parsons and I have raised our son in ministry and music, and he has attained many successes in both, including performances at the Juilliard Music Conservatory, a music minister, and conducted for several churches and orchestras. He has traveled the world playing music and is now the director of bands at the largest private Christian school in America. In 2015, I was adopted into the Chilchiquote Nation as a full tribal member and appointed to the position of Associate Chief Justice for efforts with getting their children back from the Canadian government. Like the corporations posing as government here, Canada profits off the backs of the people, including Native American children. They kidnap for $300,000 profit per child they use to balance their books. On January 1st, 2016, I was appointed ambassador of the sovereign Chilchiquote Nation, country of the Chilchiquotan, working to restore the native children kidnapped by the Canadian Child Ministries by creating a $1 billion timber deal that would provide jobs for all the Chilchiquotan tribal members, as well as people from Tennessee involved in the production, harvesting, and management of Chilchiquotan timber resources. In the summer of 2016, I was honored to serve notice of the new county of the Chilchiquotan upon the UN seeking peaceful relations with the people of the world. Political experience: 1994, Republican nominee for District 99 State Representative. 2006, candidate for Tipton County Executive. As I stand in the Tipton County Jail following the ray of sunlight and beams through the 2-inch tall by 2-foot wide slit window on my face for 30 minutes a day, I ponder the efforts or lack thereof by my friends in this fight for my freedom, which is ultimately a fight for everyone's freedom. Then today, during my 15-minute $4 call to Miss Parsons, I discovered one such friend will no longer talk to her about me over the phone. Out of fear, the phone is tapped and the FBI will harass her. Though I have done nothing wrong, fear of the FBI and their history of shoot first and frame later is a reality in the minds of those who remember Ruby Ridge, Waco, and the most recent FBI assassination of an unarmed protester in Oregon. Like the Nazi Gestapo, the thought of the FBI even thinking of you can put a chill in even the most devoted patriots. I define patriots as those who will stand for the truth, freedom, and liberty when others remain seated, who speak out against evil, corruption, and oppression when others remain silent, and like the Tennessee volunteers at the Alamo, who will fight against overwhelming odds to protect the innocent because it is the right thing to do. In short, patriots are freedom-loving people who are independent, self-sufficient, and self-governing. And that's why the old boy corrupt governments of this country fear the most. They fear people who do not need them. They fear people who will not be slaves to them. And most assuredly, they fear people who only submit to their creator and not man. Theirs is a corporation posing as government, whose only power comes from a false belief they are government by the consent of the people, when in fact they are a business, a corporation, fiction on paper, with no more authority than Walmart. The FBI and all other agencies are sub-corporations of the United States government, are no more federal than Federal Express. That's why every state, county, municipality, and even the United States government are listed as corporations on Dun and Bradstreet. And though I have harmed no one by exposing these truths and bringing their secrets and corruption to the light of day, they view me as a threat to their business and their business of lying, cheating, and stealing from we the people. Secrets like 11 different county of Tipton and Tipton County of corporations where rigged elections and kangaroo courts keep control of their corporations in the hands of a few for generations. Secrets like the U.S. Supreme Court admitting in Bonds versus U.S. 2000 that they are all corporations posing as government and have no sovereignty. Secrets like they have no power without our consent, and everything they do to us without our consent is a crime for which they can be charged and sued and have no immunity from. One of their biggest secrets is how They convert our rights into privileges by leading we the people to believe we must have a license to travel, to work, to hunt, and otherwise exercise our God-given rights to recognize the Declaration of Independence. They have even brainwashed the people into believing that entering into most sacred covenants between man, woman, and God, that being marriage, requires a license. Today, most preachers have stopped being servants of God and are now corporate officers and employees posing as servants of God. They claim they had to become corporations to avoid taxation. However, there are exemptions in the tax code for ministries, and if they taught their flocks to never get a social security number, file a tax return, or register the births of their children with the corporations posing as government, they would have no need for tax exemption. Then, like they could teach the spoken will of God. In 1 Samuel chapter 8, God said to follow him and warned of the consequences of making man a ruler over you. Today, most churches are 501c3 nonprofit corporations that push submission to man in spite of God's spoken will. Today, they preach a Romans 13 render under Caesar agenda to satisfy their corporate masters' demand for money, power, and control. Through their manipulation of a belief system, they have systematically eliminated the Native American culture of independent self-sufficiency and self-governance that the original patriots adopted and fought a revolutionary war to keep. Today, these patriots would be demonized and called domestic terrorists and sovereign citizens by the FBI. But remember, prior to the Civil War, there was no such thing as a U.S. citizen. Only Americans. Citizens are subjects and subjects are slaves. Americans are sovereign in their own right, and like God are sovereign over which they are sovereign over that which they created. Today, I am standing in the arena speaking out and fighting against a corrupted corporation posing as government. Stand with me, fellow patriots, fellow Americans, and followers of Christ, so you and your family won't have to suffer as me and my family. For more information, visit MikeParsons.org. And then there is a petitioner page. I'll scroll through this, but I'm not going to read it. But I will scroll through it slowly so you can pause the video and you can read it if you so choose. This has the details, it appears, of Mike Parsons' case. It's various pages long, goes through various points. He cites case precedent, and it appears to be some legal petition. This will be uploaded to yearofjubilee.com, and we will continue to advocate for Mike Parsons, who's currently incarcerated. Since it's December the 4th, I have been told that Mrs. Parsons will be sentenced on December the 12th. She could face 20 years in prison. I hope you understand how evil the FBI is and how they entrap people who go against the establishment. If you go here and go to list of other prisoners and go down here, you will see Mike Parsons' letter that I just read to you. So you can download this. It's called Mike Parsons' Letter to Donald Trump and Mike Parsons' Attachment to Trump. Please keep both Mike and Pat in your prayers. I believe they are innocent and targeted by a corrupt government and a corrupt Federal Bureau of Investigations. It's becoming an all too common story. The last line of peaceful defense between a tyrannical government and the defendant is jury nullification.